Okay.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and this particular session is for forums, chats, messaging. It's basically the communications section. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the communication items. I'm into a class. Just click on one of your classes, and we'll be starting with forums. So the first thing you want to make sure is that you have editing turned on in the upper right corner, so that you can add items. And then the first one I want to talk about is the news forum. So the news forum is strictly for the instructor to email their students. So what you want to do is you want to go in and post. So if you go actually into the news forum, and you can add a new topic, and then it's just like an email. So you put a subject, you put whatever message you want. You can actually put attachments. If you want to attach a file to it, you can do that as well. You can drag and drop or go search for that file on your computer. You can add that. And then once you select post to forum, it actually literally emails all your students. You do not have to know their email addresses or anything. This is strictly for the instructors. Students cannot post or reply to anything in the news forum. It is strictly for you, the instructor, to be able to email your entire class without having to know their email addresses. And also it gives it a record, because then you will have a record in here. Oh, did you send that? Did you send that?
I did.
Okay, well that just went to all the students. So it does keep a record up here so that you can always see what was sent to the students. Now sometimes you may have a student who says, well, I don't use my email, or I never get these, I didn't see it. Remind them they can always come into Moodle, click on News Forum, and read the assignments or read the messages in here, because it keeps a record of it for you. So that's the news forum. So I'm going to go back to the home page, which is my way of going around is using these right here. And we're going to go ahead and add a new forum. So we want to go ahead and go to add an activity or resource in whatever block you want it, or in whatever section you want. And under activities, we're going to select forum. So forums are used for discussions. They can also be used for submitting papers. This is where all the students can see each other and they can comment on these. It's not live. This is if they at 3 o'clock in the morning they get some brilliant idea and they want to write at that time, they can go ahead and get in there and do that at that time. So there's no actual, it's not live. They can come in anytime they want. So we're going to go ahead and create a forum. So select forum and then say add. Now, once again, you're going to give the forum a name. Remember, this is the name. Whatever you type here is what the students will see on the home page of the course, and this is what they would click on in order to access that forum. So you want to give it a name that you're going to need to know. Under the description is what you're going to tell them what you're going to do with this forum. What do they have to do? They have to read a particular topic. They have to then put in 2 paragraphs of their comments and what they thought. And then, do they need to respond to other students? Do you want them to go in and say, okay, I'm going to put mine, but now I also have to go and read 3 other students' posts and comment on theirs? That could be something. It all depends on what is it you're grading them on. Are you grading them on just on what they're writing, or do you also want them to go in to other students? A lot of times this is really good, especially for online classes. You'll be using the forums quite a bit because that's the only way the students and you can really communicate and talk. So in that case, you may need to have them read other students' posts and then post to those. And what I like to think, what I've had some other instructors do is what they'll say, okay, well you have to post yours by such and such date. And now you have to read 3 other students and post to those. And a lot of times, if it's an online class, they'll say, okay, I want you to post one of them on a particular date, and then 2 days later, post to this one, and 2 days. This way you're making sure that they're not waiting till the night before class and they're posting everything all at once, that they're actually going in throughout the week and they're reading and posting and participating in the class. Now, when we talk about participating, it's very important that you, the instructor, read these posts and comment. There's one thing that if you expect them to make all these comments and to write all this stuff, and then then they don't think that you're in there and you're not participating as well, they're not going to be as active and they're not going to want to post. So one thing you have to make sure is that you are participating in these forums as much as they are, so that they know that they write things, you read them, you comment, and you care about what they're writing. So make it worthwhile. So this is where you would then just write down everything they need to do with this form. What do you expect out of them? Now, once you're done with that, let's go ahead and look at some of these, and I'm going to come back to the form types in a moment. For right now, let's look at some of these other options in here. So attachments and word count. Do you want to allow them to put an attachment? If so, what size? What's the maximum size you want? How many attachments can they post? And do you want to display the word count? Sometimes you might tell them that you want them to write a 500-word answer. So in this case, you can look at the word count. Subscription and tracking. Now, subscription here does not necessarily mean for them to subscribe to the forum. What this means is, if you change the word subscription to email, in other words, do you want to get an email every time someone writes something in here? They're automatically subscribed, as we know the term, subscribed to the forum because they're in this class. But what this means is they're going to get an email. If they're subscribed, they get an email every time someone posts in here. That can get very annoying. So usually we leave that turned off. So what I like to do is leave that set at optional. So the student has the option of subscribing if they want to receive those emails or not. And then for tracking, what that means is when you go in later on and you look at the forum to see who's posted to that forum, it will show you the new posts and which ones you have not read. So let's say there's 10 posts and you read 5, it'll let you know it's 5 unread posts, so that you can keep track of which ones you have and have not read in a quick manner. So I like leaving tracking. I leave it turned on. Again, you can leave it as optional in case someone wants to turn that off. Post threshold for blocking. This is if you get a wordy student. You get somebody who just wants to post anything and everything and they want to get in there and just talk away. You can block them and say, okay, you can only do it within a certain time frame, or you can only do it so you can say every other day, or it'll give them a warning if they're going too far. So you can actually set a limit. Now I don't think anybody ever uses this, because usually the trouble is getting students to participate and write something, not necessarily that they're writing too much. So most of the time not used, but the option is there. Now you can also grade a forum. Now under grade it only gives you, if you have a category you can add that, but under the ratings, what this is called is ratings. So it's not like there's an actual grade at this point. What this is you can rate them. There's 5 different ratings in there. If you look at that rating option there, it actually gives you 5 different ones. And what this means is you can have an average of ratings. So let's suppose that they post to a forum, and you want them to then also post to 3 other students. And you can rate each of those within this forum. And then you want to say, okay, if it's a possible of 10 points, I'm going to give them 5 possible points for what they wrote, and then maybe 2 possible points for whatever they wrote for the other students. So what you would do then is, you can say, once I put those points in, I want you to take the average. So if they got 5 here, and they got a 5 here, and they got a 3 here, average those out, that's their grade. Or you can count. Sometimes you just want to know how many times you want to make sure they posted 3 times. So you can put a count and have it count the forums, or maximum, minimum, or sum of ratings. So you can say, okay, they get 5 for this, and 5 for this, and 2 for that, so the sum is 12, and that's their grade. So that's how this works. If you wanted to rate it, then it puts it in the grade book, and it keeps track of it. As you go through, you can rate those. You can also limit the ratings to a certain time frame. Again, something not really used much. Now what's nice about this also is you can also do this in groups. You can create groups and have students actually participate in a forum for a group. And what that means is, if you look under the common module settings, there's something here that says group mode. There's two kinds, separate groups and visible groups. Separate groups means you're going to create a forum and you're going to have groups set up, and if you turn this on for this item, that means group A cannot see group B's posts. They can only see the posts of the group that they are currently in. The visible groups means that they can see the other group's posts, but they cannot participate. It's only visible to them, but they can't participate. So you can, but sometimes you have group projects you want them to work on, and then you can create groups and have them do that in here as well. Now let's scroll back up, and I'm going to show you there are 5 different types of forums that you can create. So it defaults to standard, but the first one that we see here is a single, simple discussion. Now what that means is, you're going to provide the topic, and the students can only reply to your topic. They cannot add a discussion or a topic. They can only reply to yours. So that's real quick, simple, one quick topic. The next one says each person posts one discussion. That means that they will have the button and the option to add a topic or add a discussion once. So let's say you want each of them to post only one item and not to have to be able to write a whole bunch of different posts. You can do this one. They can add one topic and give their info. They can still reply to other people's, but they cannot add another separate topic but one time. Q&A, that is for if you have questions that you want the students to answer before they can read anybody else's posts, then you would do a Q&A. You would provide the questions, they have to answer those before they can see the other students. This is a great way to keep them from first reading the other posts and saying, hey, I like that, let me copy that and use it in my own. The standard form, that's, this one is in blog format. Again, I don't think anyone uses that because the format just looks, instead of in a conversation mode, it kind of looks like a blog. And people really don't really like that one. Standard form for general use is the one that it defaults to, and that's the standard meaning. That they can add a discussion topic multiple times. They'll keep that button that says add a topic, and they can just keep adding multiple topics to that discussion. And then they can still respond to everybody else's however many times. So 5 different types of formats that you can use. So you might want to keep those in mind when creating a forum. All right, let's go ahead and save and close this. So you should now have a forum, and this is what you'll see the icon. So once the students click on that, what they're going to see is this add a discussion topic. Now this is the button I mentioned. So for a single simple discussion format, they will not have this button at all. All they will see is your particular topic and they reply to it. For the one that says they can add one topic each, that means they'll have this button once, they'll click on it, they'll add their discussion and whatever, and they will no longer have this button available. They can reply to others, but no longer add a topic. But the standard one that it defaults to is the standard forum, meaning they can have this button all the time and they can add as many discussion topics as they want to. And that's the differences in those formats. So what they would do, they'd come in, they'd add a new discussion topic, and they would then write whatever it is that you wanted them to write. They can then read other people's comments. So let's go ahead and go into one where there's already a discussion taking place. And I have one down here called short bio. And what I require the students to do on this is I want them to just write, and you can see in my little comments here, I just want them to say something about themselves. 3 different topics or 3 different items. And then I want them, 2 of them to be true and 1 to be false. And that way they can post to each other and say, hey, I think that's false and I don't believe this, or I think these are, so they can talk about that. So here I told them what I want them to do. I want them to write a post, one must be false, and then go in and read 2 other students and post to theirs. So let's see what they've done. So I can go into the short bio, and here you can see the students, and you can see how many posts or replies they have. This is how it keeps track of the ones I have not read, which was that tracking option that I mentioned earlier. I'm talking fast. So if you want to see what the student wrote, here on the left-hand side, you do not want to click on the student's name, because that opens up their profile. You want to actually talk the discussion that they've added. So you can come in and you can click on a discussion. You can read what the student wrote. And then you can see any of the replies, and then you can see in a conversational format that who replied, they all replied to this one replied to this one. You can kind of see who wrote what in here. Now, as an instructor, you have some options here. If you look on the right-hand side, notice that for each of these you have options. So you can come in and you can edit their post. So if someone wrote something rather inappropriate, you can come in here and actually edit that post. And then it will show, if you go in and say edit and you write something or change something, it will show that you did that. You can also split a conversation. So let's say you're in here and you're talking about a particular topic. You're talking about Moodle. And now you have somebody that comes in and they post something about Blackboard, the other learning management system. Well, you kind of want them to talk about Blackboard, but not in here because this one's about Moodle. So what you can do is you can split this conversation into a new forum. So now they can post to that one, but it's a different topic. You're not mixing it up with this topic. So you can do that in here. You can also delete their post if you really think it's something you don't want anyone else to read. You can certainly delete their post. And as all the students can, anyone can reply to any of these posts. And this is where I recommend that you as the instructor go in and reply to these so that the students can see that yes, you are definitely reading them and participating as well to make it worth their while to read them. All right. A couple things you can do at the top. You can change the way they look. If you want to just not have them nested in this form, you can also change that. You can say the newest first, the oldest first, or just put it in a threaded format. So there's different formats you can use in here. If you were rating these, then you would have a box here that gives you the rating, and then you would give it whatever point value you put and rate them in here. All right. So that basically is forums on how to create a forum and what to do with them once you've got them created. You can go in, look at them, reply to them, etc. So all of this information is on the handout, so I do recommend you get yourself a handout. All right. So the other thing that we have here is we have something called chats. So a chat is basically a live conversation that you're having with your students. Again, it is an activity you would add into the, it's under activities, it's called chat. You would set up the chat, you would give it a time frame when you want students to be in there, when you want it open, and they, you can go in there. So again, give it a name, description, what do you want them to do with this chat, and then the chat sessions, you can say when they're supposed to get together and talk. Again, this is live, so each student, the drawback is each student must have a computer at the time you tell them so that they're sitting in front of that. It has to have a camera, or at least, sorry, it doesn't have to have a camera, but it definitely has to have capability for them to be able to type and see what's going on. Again, you can have group sessions in this one as well. Now the other thing that I'll talk about here, because we're talking about communication, is email. So I mentioned that the news form is a way for you to email all of your students. Now sometimes you don't want to email all the students, you only want to email maybe a group of students or individual students at a time. So what you can do is, with editing turned on, if you look on the left-hand side and scroll down to where the blocks are, remember, I meant to turn them off, delete that. Here we go. Alright, so on the left-hand side, if you scroll all the way down, and you see where you can add a block. So you can add different blocks. One of the blocks that I recommend if you want to be able to email students via this, but pick and choose your students, there's a block called Quick Mail. So you want to go ahead and select Quick Mail. It'll then add that here for you. You can now come in and compose a new email. So go ahead and it lists all your students in the course. You can pick the students that you want to email, whether it's a few of them or one at a time or however many. Then you can come in if you want to provide an attachment. You can do that as well. There you go. You can come down if you want to provide an attachment, and then here's where you put your subject and your message, just like any email, and it'll send it out. All right. So this will send it, but it also keeps a copy of this. You'll see that there's also the history, so you can keep track of what was sent to whom, and it's all done in here within your Moodle course, so that you keep everything for this particular course in one place, which is really kind of nice, as opposed to your regular email. However, if you say, well, I really want to email my regular, I'm in my Gmail, or in my personal email, and I want to email all of my students, and I do not want to have to sign into Moodle, there is a way that you can email all of your students from your Gmail. And what you want to do there is, if you see the name of your course, go to my home. So for instance, I have a course here that's EDUC 5900, Section 1. So if I wanted to email all my students in this class, and I wanted to do that from my Gmail, the address I would use would be EDUC 5900, period 1, at students.dominican.edu. So as long as you know your course ID and the section number, and all courses have a section, even if it's only section 1, all you need is the course ID, period, the section number, at students.dominican.edu, and you can email all your students from your Gmail account, or from any other email account that you might use. Just use that as your address. This class list becomes available 2 weeks before classes start, just like Moodle does, and it does disappear at the same time that Moodle does, so 4 weeks after. So otherwise you're emailing the wrong semester. So we do have to turn these off and update them for the new semester with the new students. So they're not open for always for this particular semester. All right. Emailing, messaging. Now I won't even show you messaging. All right, so that's how you can communicate with your students via Moodle.